Well, first of all, before I begin, I just want to thank you so much for being here, especially if you're here with us for the first time. We welcome you because I know that this is a family night, and I just so appreciate you being here and sharing that very special time with us. So thank you for that. A parent's night before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house I searched for the tools to hand to my spouse. Instructions were studied and we were inspired in hopes we could manage some assembly required. The children were quiet, not asleep in their beds, while Dad and I faced the evening with dread. A kitchen, 2 bikes, Barbie's townhouse to boot, and thanks to Grandpa, a train with a toot. We opened the boxes, my heart skipped a beat. Let no parts be missing or parts incomplete. Too late for last-minute returns or replacements. If we can't get it right, it goes in the basement. When what to my worrying eye should appear but 50 sheets of directions, concise but not clear, with each part numbered and every slot named, so if we failed, only we could be blamed. More rapid than eagles, the parts then fell out. All over the carpet they were scattered about. Now bolt it, now twist it, attach it right there. Slide on the seats and staple the stair. Hammer the shelves and nail to the stand. Honey, said hubby, you just glued my hand. And then in a twinkling, I knew for a fact that all the toy dealers had indeed made a pact to keep parents busy all Christmas Eve night with assembly required till morning's first light. We spoke not a word, but kept bent at our work till our eyes, they went bleary, our fingers all hurt. The coffee went cold and the night it wore thin before we attached the last rod and last pin. Then laying the tools away in the chest, we fell into bed for a well-deserved rest. But I said to my husband just before I passed out, this will be the best Christmas, without any doubt. Tomorrow we'll cheer, let the holiday ring, and not have to run to the store for a thing. We did it, the toys are all set for the perfect, most perfect Christmas, I bet. Then off to dreamland and sweet repose I gratefully went, though I suppose there's something to say for those self-deluded. I'd forgotten that batteries are never included. So I know that those of you already sitting here, you have everything done. Right? All the bows are tied and all the names are on the packages. But if you're not done, what is done is that love and connection. That's already done, isn't it? Yeah. Well, folks, this is just a really interesting night for me because as we're in the pray-in, I'm praying in with Brian and Edie and Carlos, and I'm like, I don't really know what I'm going to say tonight. Aren't you glad you came? Well, the reason being is that, I've been doing this, for a few years, and I could come and I could deliver, a metaphysical message about, Mary and Joseph and Bethlehem and all that. And I don't know, it didn't really resonate for me. And what really just seems to not be able to leave my heart, and I have a little, lump right here about it because it's like sweet in my heart, is our message to the world. And I think the reason that it's just so sweet and it feels so sweet on this particular night is I think that what we're celebrating is the birth of the Christ and what that message is to the world. And I know that in the Christian tradition it's meant that a Savior came. And in unity, we talk about the significance of the birth of the Christ is really the birth of us. our knowing of what we really are, the Christ essence. And so what also I think is on my heart is this book that we've been working with in our community for the last 7 weeks called The Fifth Agreement, and how it has woven into this conversation called Christmas Eve and being our message tonight. And if you haven't been here, it's okay. I'll do a brief little overview because I feel like it just all ties in together. That this book and these new agreements were given to us to support us in being our Christ nature. And they don't really say that in the book because it's Toltec wisdom. It's not from the Christian tradition. But it supports us in being what they say, our true self. And so those 5 agreements are: be impeccable with your word, don't take things personally, don't make assumptions, always do your best, and be skeptical and learn to listen. Because the authors say that we've grown up with many agreements, many that we're not conscious that we've made. You know, we were taught by our parents, they did the very best they could, and we grew up believing things about ourselves that are definitely not in alignment with the truth of our Christ nature. And so from this system of truth, they've just given us some agreements that will support us on our way. But one chapter at the very end was titled, Your Message to the World. I thought, wow, okay, our message to the world, because their point is that when we are living from new agreements, you know, because everything that we believe is an agreement, whether we're conscious of it or not. So if we are believing that we are not worthy, we're not lovable, we're not whole, we're not prosperous, we're not valuable, capable, lovable, whatever it is, that is not in alignment with the truth of what we are. And since our life is our message, and if we're believing things that aren't the truth of us, what is our message to the world? And so tonight just feels like the perfect time for us to embrace a new message, a message that reflects the truth of our beauty, of our wholeness, of our completion, our perfection. Because in unity, what the Christ means is just that. And that on Christmas Eve, we birth in our awareness. We're not birthing the Christ. The Christ has been there all the time. That essence, our true essence. What is happening tonight, if we choose it, is to allow ourselves to say yes to being the Christ as our message in the world. And you know, Jesus is quoted as saying, "You are the light of the world. Let your light shine so that others would know what they are." You know, Jesus, according to the stories in the Bible, had some pretty great messages. That you are the light of the world. Love your neighbor, love yourself, love God, peace, joy. There were so many messages. And so I just invite us tonight to search in our heart for the message that we are. What is the message that you are? What is the message that you share with people in your life? And what is the message that you hold and share with and about the world? Because you know, as we share our message of light and love, the Christ that we are, we call it forth in others. And I found this really sweet story I wanted to share with you. It's from a movie, and it's called Whistle Down the Wind, that tells the story of an escaped criminal who finds refuge in a country barn. And 2 children discover him. And for whatever reason, they think he's Jesus. And so this criminal has been pretty hardened. And so these children, though, they start calling him Gentle Jesus. And they call him to play with them, and in their innocence, they just love him, and they bring him food, all kinds of yummies. And over the course of time, this hardened criminal starts to live into his role of gentle Jesus. I just love that story because that's truly what we can call forth in the world and in our own lives. So, I'm just going to ask you to just work with this whole idea, this question. What is your message to the world? What is your message? Because after we pass the offering, what we're going to have an opportunity to do is to go into a meditation where we'll have an opportunity to get in touch with our message to ourselves and our message to the world. Because it's very important, the message that we give ourselves. The authors of the Fifth Agreement say, be skeptical. Don't believe yourself most of the time. But tonight, we're going to shift that message, aren't we? So just take a deep breath with me. And before we go into meditation, I just want to make sure that everyone has a little star. Does everyone have a star? If you do not have a star, please raise your hand. And everyone has something to write with. If you do not have something to write with, just raise your hand and the ushers will come. Cynthia, the person right back there has been raising her hand. Thank you. Are we set? All right. All right. All right, so now, let's take another deep breath, and if you feel comfortable, just close your eyes. In the biblical story, the shepherds followed a star. That star led them to the baby Jesus there with Mary and Joseph in Bethlehem. And that star just represents our inner wisdom, that illumination, the wisdom that we have when we allow it to flow forth into our awareness. And so I just invite you now just to breathe into your heart and just silently affirm, I just allow my wisdom to flow forth in this moment as I ground it in the love of my heart. wisdom to flow forth as I ground it in the energy of my heart of love. So I just invite you now to bring to mind a baby, a newborn baby, or a newborn little animal. Something that sparks in us joy. Joy at beholding the innocence, the wholeness, the infinite life potential. And just notice, just notice that experience as in your mind's eye you see the innocence of a newborn baby. That beauty, wholeness, infinite possibilities. And it seems that as we grow older, sometimes we forget that we are still that original blessing and innocence because life flows in the way that it does. And we can become resistant, or we can just forget the truth of what we are. But tonight, on this special, beautiful Christmas Eve, this is our time to remember the innocence that we are, the wholeness that we are, the true divine essence that we are. That's the Christ. And so let us just take a moment to just open our hearts to that truth. That we are that original innocence and blessing. And just notice how that feels for you to hear those words, and if it resonates in your being. Or if maybe you say, but I don't know. Regardless of what anyone has ever said to you, regardless of any circumstance, nothing changes the original essence that you are. And so just breathe into your heart. And from that knowing of what you are, just invite your inner star, your inner wisdom, to guide you to answer the questions that I brought forth earlier. Knowing that I am the Christ, knowing that I am infinite wholeness and love and light and wisdom and strength and power and joy and abundance. What is my message to the world? What is my unique expression and message to the world? What would you like to say to the world? What is your message to the world from your knowing of your Christ nature? And from your knowing of the Christ nature of every single person on this planet, regardless of whatever they have done, their essence is still whole and beautiful. So I just invite you just to sit with that question. What is your message to the world? And when you are ready, on one side of your star, just write your message to the world. When you're ready. And so there's one more question I would like to pose to you for the other side of your star. And that question is, what is your message to yourself? Given that you are infinite light and wholeness and love and joy and peace, what is your message to yourself? And when you're ready, just gently, just write that on the other side of your star. And just know that the Christ self that you are is very gentle and loving and kind and sees the truth of you in every moment. And so the opportunity that you have with your star is to go home tonight and hang it on your Christmas tree. And if you don't have a Christmas tree like some of us, I'm just going to hang it on my bathroom window or mirror or someplace where you can see this every day. And I invite you, before you pack up your Christmas ornaments, to save this, to keep this apart, and maybe even put it in your car when you're driving down the Beltway. The point being that you keep this and you remember this in the coming year. What is your message to the world? And you remember this message every time you hear the 6 o'clock news. You remember, you know what's true beyond every story and every circumstance. And every single time, my friends, when you look in the mirror, that's the truth of you. So I'm just going to invite us just to take a deep breath, and before we light our candles, just to breathe into the truth of these messages that come from your Christ essence. And let us just sit with those messages for a moment in the silence. You are the Christ. And on this night, let that light that you are shine forth within you to illumine your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, all of your expressions. Let that light illuminate the world.